This project was made by me. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. We know how to do them with whole numbers, but how do we do them with fractions? See, unlike with regular numbers, fractions aren't exactly as straightforward as you think they might be, because they're much more complicated and use different strategies to figure out the final answer. Though, before we get into it, we also have to know some key things when dealing with fractions. When dealing with mixed numbers in an equation, you probably want to change them to an improper fraction. And how you do that is, you take these two numbers and multiply them together. For example, this equals 12. Then you want to take the numerator right here and you want to add this onto this value you had right here. So that plus that is 17. 17. But what about the denominator, right? Because you want to make this an improper fraction. Well, the denominator stays the same. So you would just simply add 6 right here. And this is still equivalent to this. And you probably want to use this when you're actually converting a mixed number in an equation. But you want to do the opposite when you're trying to convert it out of an equation. So basically when you find your final answer. So let's say this is the final answer. Let's say you got 20 over 3, all right? But how do we reduce it into a simplified form? Because we need to find the reduced version, right? And to find the reduced version, you need to change the improper fraction to a mixed number, like sort of like what we did before, except the opposite. So with this, it's simple. All you need to do is divide. But we know if we divide 20 by 3, we're probably just gonna get a regular old decimal. So how do we figure out a mixed number? Because this is what a mixed number is, right? For example, blah, 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 1 over 2. There we go, right? See this big number? That represents the whole. This is the denominator, and this is the leftover numerator. So this, in terms of this, is simply the remainder. This is what it was out of, so it's what you're dividing out of. And these are all the wholes. So for this, we know it can go 6 times. Because 3 times 6 is 18, and that is not over 20. So take that away, and let's see, this is 2, right? So this 2 here would be your remainder 2. So what do we do with all these numbers now? So from what we see here, this is the whole number, this right here. So first, you put 6 there, and then, well, we already know the denominator is 3. So put a line there, and we say something over 3. And as we see our remainder here, our remainder is 2. So we put that there. So this is our final answer for whatever equation we just did, right? But over here, sorry for my terrible, this right here is gonna be our final answer because it's a simplified form. Because if we take this and did what we did before, 6 times 3, 18, plus 2, 20. 20 over 3. And this is just also, when dealing with mixed numbers, you probably want to also change them to the very lowest equivalent fraction. So for example, let's say this is our final answer as well with the mixed number. It's going to be 4 and then 2. So 2 wholes and 2 over 4. But I'm going to change this to be another equivalent but lower fraction because we want it to be in the simplest terms. So what I want to do is, because over here, boom. So I'm going to change this as 2 because I want to keep the same amount of wholes, and I'm going to change the fraction to 1 over 2. And what I did was I just divided both these numbers by 2. It's sort of like an equivalent fraction or proportions of what we did before. So how do we do subtraction? Well, it's pretty much the exact same as addition, just with a different operation. So for example, 1 over 7 minus 1 over 14, right? What is this? Like, how do we get the final answer? Well, again, what we just did, we find the lowest common denominator, LCD. So 7, it's 7, 14, 21, 28, etc., right? But what about 14? Well, it's 14. Oh, and we can stop right there because what we have here is the same lowest common denominator, 14. So here, you go 14, over 1. Because this is already 14, we can keep that. But we need to make this 14. And as you see, this is times 1, times 2, times 2. So what we would do is you would multiply this by 2, multiply this by 2. Because whatever you do at the bottom, you do at the top. And keep that symbol there. And then make this 14 as a denominator. And since we multiplied that by 2, you simply go here. You add the 2 because 1 times 2 is 2. This equals 1 over 14. And that is your final answer because what you're doing is you're taking away 1/14 out of 2/14. Simple. Multiplication with fractions is really easy, as we've already learned it. As long as you know your times tables, you should be easily able to multiply. So for example, 6 over 8 multiplied by 9 over 5. So what is this, right? What is this? Well, it's really easy. All you do, these two numbers, multiply them. These two numbers, multiply them. So what we would do here is 30 over, and this is 72. However, as we see, we can divide this again because what we want to do is we want to reduce this. So I know we can divide these by 2. So 30 divided by 2 is 15. Sorry for my terrible 5. And 72 divided by 2 is 36. Because if you scale it up, you'll get the same answer. So we see that, can we go further? We can, right? So let's divide this by 3 now. Okay, so 3 divided by 15. And I'll just show your work, so I'll add that right there. So 3 divided by 15 is 5. And then what's 36 divided by 3? Well, that is 12. So from this to this to this. So we see that this is our lowest reduced fraction that we can get because we can't go any further. So this is the final answer. So now, how do we divide fractions? Well, with fractions, they're a bit more complicated. So let's say we have 3 over 5 divided by 2 over 7. So how do we do this? Well, there's 2 methods. So the first one is cross multiplication. So what is cross multiplication? So basically, it's taking these 2 numbers and these 2 numbers and multiplying them. So when you're starting off with here, 3 times 7, because we want to multiply, not divide here. So 3 times 7 is 21, and that goes where the numerators are, because it starts off here. And when you're looking for the denominator, what you want to do is you want to take 5 and multiply it by 2, which is 10. You see, because it starts off right here, at the bottom. So now, and then we get our final answer. And then what we would do is we would just reduce this down. So we can just say 2, 10, and 1. So, and we, by the way, here's a cool trick. We know this is correct because we can multiply these 2 numbers, which is 20, and then add this, 21. And then denominator is the same, and then 21 is the value right here. So that makes sense, right? This is the final answer for this. But there's another method that a lot of us learned, and that is, so taking the same example, 3 over 5 divided by 2 over 7. So another thing we can do is we can completely scrap this division symbol. So instead we can rewrite this as 3 over 5 multiplied by 7 over 2. What we did here was we made this a participle, and we basically, what a participle is we basically just flip this with this. So you see the 7 is on the top now, and the 2 is on the bottom. Now we would just multiply this way and this way. Basically what we did here, except without the cross. We would just multiply straight forwards now. And then this equals 21 over 10. What do you know? It's the same answer as here. And even when you reduce it down to 10, 1, this is still the same as here, right? Because so the final answer is the same as here, same as here. It's just another different way to do division. As a bonus, we'll also be using BEDMAS. And that is simply just as what we did now, using the same functions as BEDMAS as when we use it in regular math. So I'll set up an example right here. So in brackets, 2 times 5, 2 over 5 times 3 over 7 plus 2 with 1 and 2. And then we can also divide this by 3 over 4. Okay, so what do we do here first? Well, we look in brackets and we solve this equation first. So 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times 7 is 35. Now plus, and before we go any further, let's change this to an improper fraction. So this is 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1, 5. So instead, we change this to an improper, and we go 5 over 2. But question is, how do we get the same LCD, the lowest common denominator? Well, an easy way to figure out is that we can just multiply these two numbers together to get the lowest common denominator, which would be 70, if you don't know that by hand. So that is equal to having this number right here, 70, because this all you do is multiply by 2, you would get 12. And then plus, because 70 is multiplied by 35 with 2, what you would do is you would multiply 5 times 35. So if you calculate that over here, 35 times 5, 25, 5, 15, 175. So 175, right, over 70. And then we can simply calculate what that is, and we get this over 70. And then take this and put it, and then we take this, because now all the brackets are done, we would take 187 over 70.
Yeah, I did it wrong.
And divide it by 3 over 4. And personally, for this, we can just use cross multiplication because I find that to be easier, but you can do the other method as well. And 3 times 70 is 21 and 0, which is 210. And this, I'll quickly calculate. 187 times 4 is 28, 32, 7, 4, 8. But we need to change this to a mixed number. So what I like to do is I use a trick with my own calculator, and I'll quickly show that right now. And to find the mixed number, I like to use the trick with my calculator, like I said before. I take 748 and I divide it by the denominator, which is 210. And that equals to this huge number, right? But we see that before the decimal there's a 3. So I know that 3 is my whole number. So I put 3 right here. And because my denominator stays the same, I know it's going to be 210. So let's see. What is now 3 times 210? It equals to 630. So 630. And then what I would do is I would minus 748 from 630. And do that on the calculator. 748 minus 630 equals 118. So 118 right here. But we can probably reduce this even more, right? So let's divide all this by 2. So we keep 3 here. Dividing 210 by 2. Let's write this down. You show your work. What you would do here is 105 because that's divided by 2, and 118 would be, we can just calculate this quickly.
The only difference is now you're like explaining it to me how
118 divided by 2 equals 59. 59. And because we can't go any further, this would be our final answer for this equation as we see right here. Simple. It's basically just what we did combined together and using the formula that we did for regular bed mass. Thanks for watching.